Elizabeth Taylor's secret boyfriend wasn't just shocking, it was illegal back then. While filming her most famous movie, America's violet-eyed beauty was sneaking around with someone completely forbidden. Hotel staff were paid thousands to keep quiet. Even her closest friends were kept in the dark. When the truth finally came out years later, people couldn't believe what they were hearing. No wonder she kept this relationship hidden for decades. Elizabeth Taylor was born on February 27, 1932, in London. Her parents, Frances Taylor and Sarah Southern, were American. Frances worked as an art dealer, and Sarah had once been a stage actress. They had moved to England in 1929 to open an art gallery on Bond Street. Their social circle included famous artists and politicians, including Colonel Victor Cazalet, who became Elizabeth's godfather. She spent her early years in London and attended Byron House, a Montessori school in Highgate. But her childhood was cut short by World War II. In early 1939, U.S. Ambassador Joseph P. Kennedy warned American families in England to return home. The Taylors listened. Sarah took Elizabeth and her brother Howard to California in April 1939 on the SS Manhattan. Frances stayed behind to close the gallery but rejoined them by the end of the year. The family settled in Beverly Hills, where Frances opened a new art gallery in 1940. Elizabeth and her brother started school at Hawthorne. At this point, Hollywood wasn't in the picture. But fate had other plans. Because of her father's business, Elizabeth met some of the most powerful people in the film industry. One of them was Universal Pictures chairman Cheever Cowden. He saw something special in her. At just 10 years old, she was signed to Universal. Her first film, There's One Born Every Minute, 1942, was a light comedy. It wasn't a big hit, and Universal decided not to renew her contract. It was a mistake. MGM quickly stepped in, signing her and giving her a role in Lassie Come Home, 1943. Even in a supporting part, she stood out. Then came National Velvet, 1944, the role that changed everything. She was 12 years old and determined to play Velvet Brown, a girl who trains a horse to compete in the Grand National. She spent months convincing MGM she was right for the part. When she finally got it, she gave it everything she had. The film made over $4 million and turned her into a star. Her performance was mature beyond her years. She wore braces during filming, but still had the poise and confidence of a seasoned actress. Mickey Rooney played her mentor, and Anne Revere played her strong-willed mother. It was a story of determination, much like Elizabeth's own. She worked hard for the role, training extensively with horses. During filming, she injured her back. The pain stayed with her for life. After National Velvet, she wasn't just a child actress. She was Hollywood's next big star. But the hardest part was still ahead. Many young actors struggled to transition into adult roles. Elizabeth was different. By 18, she had already proven herself in Father of the Bride, 1950. She played Kay Banks, a young woman preparing for marriage. The film was a success, and audiences embraced her in a more mature role. A Place in the Sun, in 1951, became the film that changed everything. Playing Angela Vickers, a wealthy socialite caught in a tragic love triangle, Taylor proved she could handle serious drama. The film, based on an American tragedy, explored ambition, class struggles, and moral dilemmas. Critics praised her, and the film won 6 Academy Awards. Her next major breakthrough came in Giant, 1956, an epic drama that tackled wealth, gender roles, and racial tensions in Texas. She played Leslie Benedict, a strong-willed woman navigating marriage and power struggles in a wealthy cattle empire. With a budget of $5 million, the production was massive requiring months of filming in Marfa, Texas. Taylor formed deep friendships with her co-stars Rock Hudson and James Dean, both of whom would become legends. But tragedy struck before the film's release. James Dean died in a car crash in September 1955. Taylor was devastated, and her grief made Leslie's emotional journey even more powerful. Giant became a major success and remains one of her most iconic films. In 1957, Taylor earned her first Academy Award nomination for Raintree County, a Civil War-era drama adapted from Ross Lockridge Jr.'s novel. She played Susanna Drake, a Southern belle whose mental instability slowly destroys her marriage to Montgomery Clift's character. The role required intense emotional depth, as Susanna's struggles with trauma and paranoia took center stage. The film itself was a challenge. It was one of Hollywood's early attempts at widescreen filmmaking, and its large scope led to delays and high costs. Despite its mixed reception, Taylor's performance stood out. Critics praised the way she balanced charm with darker emotions. The Academy recognized her work with a Best Actress nomination, marking another step in her evolution as a serious actress. By 1958, she was at the peak of her career, but her personal life was about to take a devastating turn. She had just started filming Cat on a Hot Tin Roof when tragedy struck. Her husband, producer Mike Todd, died in a plane crash in March 1958. Taylor had planned to be on the flight, but stayed home due to illness. The loss shattered her. She disappeared from the public eye, overwhelmed by grief. But MGM pressured her to return to work. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, based on Tennessee Williams's play, was already shaping up to be a major film. Taylor played Maggie, a passionate and frustrated woman struggling with her husband's emotional distance. The pain she brought to the role was real. Her grief was raw, and it showed in every scene. The film became MGM's biggest success of the year and earned 6 Academy Award nominations, including 1 for Taylor. But while her career soared, her personal life became even more complicated. In 1959, she found comfort in her late husband's best friend, singer Eddie Fisher. The problem was that Fisher was already married to America's sweetheart, Debbie Reynolds. When their affair became public, Taylor was painted as a homewrecker. The scandal was everywhere. MGM saw an opportunity and didn't hesitate to use it. They featured provocative images of Taylor in the marketing for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, knowing the controversy would bring audiences to the theater. The studio did the same thing in Butterfield 8, 1960, a film Taylor never wanted to do. She played Gloria Wandrus, a call girl, a role that fed into the public's obsession with her private life. Taylor hated the film, calling it a piece of trash. But it didn't matter. It was a hit, and to everyone's surprise, it won her an Oscar. It was as if Hollywood was rewarding her for surviving the chaos of her life. Elizabeth Taylor changed Hollywood forever when she signed on for Cleopatra in 1960. She became the first actor to secure a guaranteed $1 million salary for a single film. At the time, that was an unheard-of amount, equal to about $10.8 million today. But her deal didn't stop there. She also negotiated a 10% share of the film's gross profits. By the time filming was done, delays and setbacks had pushed her earnings to nearly $7 million, around $60 million in today's money. It was a record-breaking contract that set a new standard for how actors negotiated their worth. The way she handled these negotiations became legendary. Taylor reportedly conducted them from her bathtub, while her husband, Eddie Fisher, relayed her demands to executives at 20th Century Fox. When the studio finally agreed to her $1 million base salary, she celebrated by drinking champagne in the tub. This wasn't just business, it was a statement. By then, she had already won an Academy Award for Butterfield 8 in 1960 and was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Her name alone turned Cleopatra into one of the most anticipated movies of its time. But with such a massive salary came pressure. The studio needed the film to be a huge hit, and that's where things started to spiral out of control. While Cleopatra struggled behind the scenes, something even bigger was happening off-screen. Taylor's on-set romance with Richard Burton became one of the most shocking Hollywood scandals of the era. Both were married, Taylor to Eddie Fisher and Burton to Sybil Williams, but their chemistry was impossible to ignore. During filming, a scripted kiss turned into something much longer, and from that moment on, they were inseparable. The affair became a worldwide obsession. Paparazzi followed them everywhere, snapping photos of their secret meetings and capturing them together on a yacht in the Mediterranean. Those images made headlines around the world. Even the Vatican condemned their relationship, calling it erotic vagrancy. But public outrage only made people more curious. Taylor had tried to resist Burton at first, insisting she wouldn't be just another one of his conquests, but their connection was too strong. Their love story was passionate, volatile, and impossible to look away from. Burton showered her with extravagant gifts, including diamonds that became famous in their own right. They married in 1964, divorced in 1974, then married again in 1975. Their relationship blurred the lines between Hollywood fiction and real-life drama, changing how the media covered celebrity romances forever. Meanwhile, Cleopatra was becoming one of the most expensive films ever made. Originally budgeted at $2 million, costs skyrocketed due to constant delays, elaborate set designs, and a troubled production schedule. By the time filming ended, the final cost had reached $44 million, more than $320 million today. The original director, Ruben Mamoulian, quit after just 10 minutes of usable footage. The entire production had to be moved from England to Rome. Taylor's health problems made things worse. She suffered from pneumonia and had to undergo an emergency tracheotomy, which put her out of work for weeks. The film's scale was unmatched. Over 26,000 costumes were created, with Taylor wearing 65 different outfits, more than any other actress in a single film at the time. Some sets were so elaborate that they had to be built from scratch, including a full-scale replica of Cleopatra's barge, decorated with real gold plating. Despite all the hype, Cleopatra struggled to turn a profit. It was the highest-grossing movie of 1963, earning $57 million worldwide. But the budget had gotten so out of control that the studio couldn't break even. It took years for 20th Century Fox to recover. The financial disaster forced the studio to sell off a huge portion of its backlot, which later became Century City, a major business district in Los Angeles. Taylor, however, walked away more famous than ever. Her performance cemented her status as one of Hollywood's greatest stars, but it was her personal life that truly fascinated the public. She became a permanent fixture in the tabloids. Life magazine put her on the cover 14 times, more than any other person in history at the time. Paparazzi followed her every move, sometimes climbing trees or using telephoto lenses just to capture her and Burton together. Elizabeth Taylor's career was filled with moments of triumph and struggle. She won her first Academy Award in 1961 for Butterfield 8, a film she never wanted to make. She played Gloria Wandrus, a woman caught in a troubled affair. The story felt too close to home since Taylor herself was in the middle of a scandal. Her relationship with Eddie Fisher had shocked the public after he left his wife Debbie Reynolds for her. MGM forced Taylor to take the role due to her contract, but she resented it. During filming, She was still mourning her third husband, Mike Todd, who had died in a plane crash. Her health was also failing. She suffered a serious bout of pneumonia that nearly killed her, and doctors had to perform an emergency tracheotomy. That same year, she won the Oscar for Best Actress, but instead of feeling proud, she saw it as a pity award. Shirley MacLaine, who lost to Taylor that night, even said she won because she almost died. Critics praised her performance, but Taylor never embraced the film. She believed Hollywood had used her personal life for profit, turning her pain into entertainment. Her second Oscar win in 1967 told a different story. This time, she won for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? And the victory felt real. She played Martha, an angry, bitter wife locked in a toxic marriage. It was a huge departure from the glamorous roles she was known for. To fit the part, she gained weight and let go of her polished Hollywood image. The film, based on Edward Albee's play, was groundbreaking for its raw emotion and sharp dialogue. It received 13 Oscar nominations and won 5. Critics called Taylor's performance the best of her career. This time, the award wasn't about sympathy, it was about talent. By the late 1970s, Taylor's film career was fading. Hollywood had changed. Actresses like Jane Fonda and Meryl Streep were the new stars, and the old Hollywood glamour that Taylor represented was losing its appeal. Some of her films during this period, like Boom in 1968 and Secret Ceremony the same year, were box office failures. Even when she worked with Richard Burton again in Dr. Faustus in 1967 and Under Milkwood in 1972, audiences were no longer interested. As movie roles became scarce, Taylor turned to television and theater in the 1980s. She made guest appearances on General Hospital and starred in TV movies like Victory at Entebbe. In 1981, she made her stage debut in The Little Foxes, playing Regina Giddens. Reviews were mixed, but fans still lined up to see her. Even as Hollywood moved on, Taylor remained a legend. Elizabeth Taylor's love life was filled with passion, heartbreak, and scandal. At just 18 years old, she married Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr. on May 6, 1950. He was the heir to the Hilton Hotel fortune, and their wedding was a grand Hollywood spectacle. MGM Studios organized everything, from the designer gown by Helen Rose to the star-studded guest list. The ceremony took place at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills, making it look like a fairy tale. But the reality was far from it. Hilton was 6 years older and struggled with alcoholism. He was abusive, both physically and emotionally. Their honeymoon in Europe turned into a nightmare as his violent behavior escalated. Taylor later revealed that she suffered a miscarriage because of one of his outbursts. Just 8 months after their wedding, she filed for divorce, citing mental cruelty. The marriage was officially over on January 29, 1951. She later admitted that she had been too young and unprepared for what marriage truly meant. Her second marriage felt like the complete opposite. On February 21, 1952, she married British actor Michael Wilding in a small ceremony at Caxton Hall in London. He was 20 years older and provided a sense of stability she had never known. They built a quiet life in England and had 2 sons. Michael Howard Wilding was born on January 6, 1953, and Christopher Edward Wilding followed on February 27, 1955. But as Taylor's career soared, Wilding's began to fade. Rumors spread that he had affairs with strippers while she was away filming Giant in 1955. The distance between them grew, and on January 26, 1957, they divorced. They remained on good terms, but Taylor later admitted that their marriage lacked passion. That passion came with Mike Todd. The film and theater producer swept her off her feet, and they married on February 2nd, 1957, in Acapulco, Mexico. Todd was known for his grand personality and love for extravagance. He showered Taylor with gifts and over-the-top displays of affection. For her birthday, he threw a party at Madison Square Garden with more than 18,000 guests. They had a daughter together, Elizabeth Liza Frances Todd, born on August 6, 1957. Taylor was deeply in love, but tragedy struck on March 22, 1958. Todd's private plane, the Lucky Liz, crashed due to engine failure. He died instantly. Taylor was devastated. Her grief led her into the arms of Todd's close friend, singer Eddie Fisher, who was married to actress Debbie Reynolds at the time. What started as comfort soon turned into scandal. The public was outraged when Taylor and Fisher's affair became known. Reynolds was America's sweetheart, and Taylor was quickly labeled a homewrecker. Fisher left Reynolds and married Taylor on May 12, 1959. But their relationship was troubled from the start. He struggled to keep up with her fame and strong personality. Then came Cleopatra. During filming in 1962, Taylor met Richard Burton, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. Their affair became one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood history. Taylor divorced Fisher on March 5, 1964, leaving him for Burton. Looking back, Reynolds later said that Fisher had only been a temporary distraction for Taylor as she mourned Mike Todd. Her fifth marriage was the most infamous of them all. She met Richard Burton in 1961 while filming Cleopatra. The problem was, they were both married. Taylor to Eddie Fisher and Burton to Sybil Burton. But their connection was impossible to ignore. The world watched as their affair unfolded in full view of the press. It was so scandalous that even the Vatican condemned Taylor for erotic vagrancy. Burton was captivated by her. He called her irresistible, like the pull of gravity. She fell for him just as hard, drawn to his charm and vulnerability despite his heavy drinking and disheveled appearance. Paparazzi followed them everywhere, snapping photos of their stolen moments on yachts and in the streets of Rome. Their affair made bigger headlines than John Glenn orbiting the Earth. It changed celebrity culture forever, turning private lives into public entertainment. Taylor divorced Eddie Fisher on March 5, 1964. Just 10 days later, she married Burton in a private ceremony at the Ritz-Carlton in Montreal. She was 32, he was 38. Their minister acknowledged the chaos that had brought them together, telling them, "You have gone through great travail in your love for each other." That love was as extravagant as it was intense. Burton showered Taylor with gifts, yachts, jets, furs, and most famously, a diamond necklace worth $1 million. They starred in 11 films together and became the most famous couple in Hollywood. But their marriage was far from perfect. Taylor struggled with alcoholism. Burton had affairs. The passion that brought them together also tore them apart. After 10 years, they divorced in June 1974. A year later, they shocked everyone by getting married again in October 1975 in Botswana. But the second time around didn't last. By July 1976, they divorced for good. Taylor always called Burton the love of her life. She said that after him, every other man was just a companion. Her sixth marriage was different. She stepped away from Hollywood and into the world of politics. In 1976, she married John Warner, a Republican politician aiming for a U.S. Senate seat. They met after her final split from Burton, and their romance moved fast. Their wedding on December 4, 1976, was nothing like her previous ones. It was small and simple, held at sunset on Warner's farm in Virginia. Warner's political career was just beginning, and Taylor's fame gave him a boost. At Virginia Military Institute's Founders' Day celebration, cadets tossed their hats in the air when they met her. Warner often joked that she was his secret weapon in winning the election. At first, Taylor loved the change of pace. She said she felt rooted for the first time in her life. But life in Washington, D.C. didn't suit her. She missed Hollywood. The lack of excitement led to depression, and she turned to drugs and alcohol. By December 1981, the marriage was falling apart. They separated and finalized their divorce on November 5, 1982. Even after the split, they remained close. Like many of her ex-husbands, Warner stayed a friend for life. Her seventh marriage was the most unexpected of all. In 1988, Taylor checked into the Betty Ford Clinic for prescription drug addiction. That's where she met Larry Fortensky, a construction worker 20 years younger than her. He was battling alcohol addiction. She was Hollywood royalty. He was an ordinary guy. But in rehab, none of that mattered. Their wedding on October 6, 1991, was an event like no other. It took place at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch and cost between $1.5 million and $2 million. The guest list included Eddie Murphy and Nancy Reagan. Jackson walked Taylor down the aisle along with her son, Michael Wilding Jr. Helicopters hovered overhead, trying to capture photos. One desperate photographer even parachuted onto the estate. Taylor wore a $25,000 Valentino gown, a gift from the designer. Instead of champagne, they toasted with mineral water in honor of their recovery. At first, they were happy. Fortensky later said he cherished little moments like making snow angels with her on vacation. But the marriage struggled. Fortensky wasn't used to fame. The constant media attention became overwhelming. After 5 years, they separated in August 1996 and divorced soon after. But Taylor never abandoned the people she loved. When she passed away in 2011, she left Fortensky $825,000 in her will. Even after divorce, she made sure he was taken care of. Taylor's eighth marriage wasn't to a new man. It was to Fortensky again. But this time, it wasn't about romance. It was about resilience. It was a reminder that no matter how many times she fell in love, she never gave up on it. Before Taylor became one of the most famous actresses in the world, she had another love story, one that could have changed everything. In 1949, at just 17 years old, she got engaged to William Pauley Jr., the 22-year-old son of a U.S. ambassador. They met during a family vacation in Florida, and it was an instant connection. Pauley proposed with a cushion-cut diamond ring, the first of many dazzling jewels that would become part of Taylor's legendary collection. Taylor was deeply in love. Her letters to Pauley showed just how much. In one note written on pink stationery on May 6, 1949, she said, "I've never known this kind of love before. It's so perfect and complete and mature." She even thought about leaving Hollywood behind. She was ready to trade fame for marriage, a quiet life, and a family. But their relationship faced serious challenges. MGM Studios didn't approve of the engagement. The studio wanted Taylor to maintain her image as America's sweetheart and preferred her to be seen with football star Glenn Davis instead. Taylor refused to be controlled. In a letter to Pauley, she wrote, "I don't care what they say anymore. From now on, I'm going to live my life the way I want to." Despite her determination, their romance didn't last. Pauley struggled with jealousy. He wasn't comfortable with the attention Taylor received. Their love, once so strong, began to fade. After 6 months together, he asked for the ring back. Taylor was heartbroken but hopeful. In one of her letters, she wrote, "I know with all my heart and soul that this is not the end for us. It couldn't be. We love each other too much." But it was the end. Less than 8 months later, Taylor married Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr., heir to the Hilton Hotel fortune. Paulie, on the other hand, took much longer to move on. He reportedly didn't marry for another 25 years. Elizabeth Taylor lived a life of fame and fortune, but behind the glamour, she faced battles that tested her strength again and again. From life-threatening illnesses to addiction, she endured more than most, yet she always found a way to rise again. In 1961, while filming Cleopatra in England, Taylor developed pneumonia. It wasn't just a bad case. It became so severe that doctors had to perform an emergency tracheotomy to save her life. She later revealed that she stopped breathing multiple times. News agencies even reported her death by mistake. She described the experience in vivid detail, saying she felt herself leaving her body and entering a tunnel where she saw her late husband, Mike Todd. He told her it wasn't her time yet. Moments later, she fought her way back. The surgery left a visible scar on her throat, and just weeks later, she stood on stage at the 1961 Academy Awards, accepting the Best Actress Oscar for Butterfield 8. Some believed the sympathy surrounding her near-death experience influenced the decision, especially since the film itself received mixed reviews. But no matter the reason, that night cemented her reputation as a fighter. Before this, Taylor's personal life had been filled with controversy. Her affair with Eddie Fisher while he was married to Debbie Reynolds made headlines, and the public saw her as a homewrecker. But after her battle with pneumonia, everything changed. Her fight for survival made her more relatable. People saw her as vulnerable for the first time. It was a turning point in how the world viewed her. Pneumonia wasn't the only health battle she faced. Taylor struggled with addiction for years. It started young. In 1944, at just 12 years old, she injured her back while filming National Velvet. The pain never fully went away. Over time, she turned to prescription drugs to cope. The loss of Mike Todd in a plane crash in 1958 only made things worse. Alcohol became another escape. By the late 1970s, addiction had taken control of her life. During her marriage to Senator John Warner, she felt lost and isolated in Washington, far from Hollywood. She later said she became a drunk and a junkie. She manipulated doctors into prescribing excessive amounts of medication and surrounded herself with people who enabled her addiction. At one point, she was taking more than 300 prescribed medications in a single year. In December 1983, she made history. She became the first major celebrity to check herself into the Betty Ford Clinic for alcohol addiction. At the time, rehab carried a stigma, especially for someone so famous. But Taylor didn't hide. She stayed for 7 weeks, facing withdrawal and the deep emotional pain that had fueled her addiction. She left stronger, but her battle wasn't over. In 1988, after the death of Richard Burton, she relapsed and returned to Betty Ford. This time, she won the fight for good. Her openness about addiction was rare. In Hollywood, stars worked hard to keep their struggles private, but Taylor used hers to inspire others. Her decision to seek treatment helped change how the world viewed rehab. After she went public, other celebrities, including Johnny Cash and Mary Tyler Moore, followed her lead. She proved that even the biggest stars could face demons and overcome them. Even after overcoming addiction, her body continued to challenge her. She endured between 30 and 40 surgeries throughout her life. Chronic back pain, scoliosis, and hip problems made every day a battle. In the mid-1990s, she had 2 hip replacements. Then in 1997, doctors discovered a benign tumor pressing against her brain. The news came after an MRI scan during a routine checkup. Within days, she was in surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. It lasted 3 hours, but doctors removed the tumor successfully. She spent her 65th birthday recovering, but she didn't let it stop her. Just weeks later, she was back to work, focusing on AIDS activism. In the 1980s, when HIV/AIDS was spreading fast and misinformation was everywhere, she became one of the first celebrities to take action. She didn't just raise awareness, she fought for real change. Her activism started in 1985 after the death of her close friend Rock Hudson. He was one of the first major celebrities to die from AIDS-related complications. His death shocked the world, but for Taylor, it was personal. She saw how the disease isolated people and how little support they received. She refused to stay silent. That same year, she co-founded AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research, and started using her influence to demand action. She didn't stop there. In 1991, she founded the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, ETAF, with $1 million she raised by selling her wedding photos to People magazine. Unlike other organizations at the time, ETAF focused on direct care. It funded HIV testing, prevention programs, and medical treatment for those who couldn't afford it. Taylor paid all operational costs herself, making sure that 100% of donations went straight to the cause. The impact was huge. By 2015, ETAF had donated over $15 million to programs in 33 countries. One of its most successful projects was in Malawi, where it partnered with the Global AIDS Interfaith Alliance to set up mobile health clinics. These clinics treated up to 1,000 patients a day, nearly half of them children under 5. At a time when access to treatment was limited, this work saved lives. Taylor wasn't afraid to take her fight to Washington. She testified before Congress multiple times, pushing for more funding for HIV/AIDS research. In 1990, her efforts helped pass the Ryan White Care Act, a law that still provides critical funding for treatment programs today. She also pressured President Ronald Reagan to publicly address the epidemic, something he had avoided for years. In 1992, she called out President George H.W. Bush, saying he was doing nothing at all to stop the crisis. Few celebrities were willing to speak this boldly, but Taylor never backed down. Her commitment went beyond speeches. She funded medical centers dedicated to HIV/AIDS care, including the Elizabeth Taylor Medical Center at the Whitman Walker Clinic in Washington, D.C., and the Elizabeth Taylor Endowment Fund for UCLA's Clinical AIDS Research and Education Center in Los Angeles. She also helped expand AMFAR's work internationally, making sure research and treatment reached the people who needed it most. Over her lifetime, she helped raise more than $270 million for HIV/AIDS causes. Years later, an incredible story about Taylor's activism surfaced. Her close friend Kathy Ireland claimed that during the 1980s, Taylor ran an underground network to provide unapproved AIDS medications. According to Ireland, Taylor turned her Bel Air home into a safe house, where patients could access experimental drugs that weren't yet approved in the U.S. She even sold her own jewelry to fund the operation. If true, this would mean Taylor was secretly breaking the law to help save lives. Some have questioned the story, but it fits with everything she stood for. She had already defied social norms by openly supporting AIDS patients when most of the world turned its back. If the system moved too slowly, it wouldn't have been surprising if she found another way to help. Her fearless activism earned her some of the highest honors in the world. In 1993, she received the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award at the Oscars. When she accepted the award, she called herself a rowdy activist and said there was still more work to do. She was also awarded the French Legion of Honor in 1987, the Presidential Citizens Medal in 2001, and the GLAAD Vanguard Award in 2000. In 1997, the Screen Actors Guild gave her a Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing not just her legendary film career, but also her groundbreaking activism. When Taylor passed away on March 23, 2011, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, the world lost one of its greatest advocates. She was 79 years old. Her 4 children, Michael Wilding Jr., Christopher Wilding, Liza Todd Burton, and Maria Burton, were by her side. At the time of her death, her fortune was estimated between $600 million and $1 billion. Her wealth didn't come just from acting. Her perfume line, White Diamonds, had become one of the best-selling celebrity fragrances of all time. After her passing, sales surged, keeping her legacy alive. Her famous jewelry collection sold for $150 million at auction, and much of her fortune went toward AIDS research. Even in death, she made sure her work would continue.